Dolphin fans, Panther fans, it's Dolphins Postgame. As Week 5 concludes in the NFL, let's get started. Fins for all of us Dolphin fans. Is it a Club Dub edition? It starts right now and answers a question.
Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun.
Well, Panther fans, as we find the edge to Week 6, as we welcome you into Dolphins Postgame, it is another lose edition of Dolphins Postgame as the Dolphins fall to 1-4 on the season. But that's okay, Dolphins fans. We knew it wasn't going to be easy to get wins early in the beginning of the season when we fell 33-8 to the Indianapolis Colts in Week 1. And then, of course, the following finals after those games, including a final score loss to the Buffalo Bills on Thursday night, week number 3 of 31-21 in favor of the Buffalo Bills. We put up a good effort against the Buffalo Bills, and we also put up a good effort against the New England Patriots, 33-27. The final there, of course, we lost. But last week, before Week 5, we put up a great effort against the New York Jets, a team who, like us, was 0-3 to start the season. Now we come up against a team in the Panthers, who, coming in, was 1-3, just like we were coming in off of our victory of the New York Jets, who currently into the Sunday action were 0-3 and went to 0-4 with the loss to, of course, the Miami Dolphins the previous week, which was the 4th week of the NFL season. We've got so much to break down, including our game breakdown, which is coming up in just a few short minutes from now, 5 minutes to be exact. But before we get to that, let's catch you up to speed with the coaches and the quarterbacks. It is Aaron Glenn that was our focus for the New York Jets. That is not the focus for this week. We are focused on the Carolina Panthers and their head coach against Mike McDaniel. Let's talk about their quarterback while we look for the head coach of the Carolina Panthers right now. Their head coach, of course, was hoping to keep the vibes going and try to even up their record at 3-3. Now they have a chance to do that next week with a victory over the Miami Dolphins. We'll get into that in just a moment. But before we do, say hello to Bryce Young as he takes on Tua and the Miami Dolphins. Tua is a quarterback for coach of the Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, and your head coach, ladies and gentlemen, for the Carolina Panthers, as we're finding out who the head coach of the Carolina Panthers is, I believe, if I am not mistaken, it is Dave Canales. Dave Canales is the head coach of the Carolina Panthers right now. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not saying that right, of course, apologies in advance. But I do know your first name, so there you go. I could say who the first name is. And it looks like he is right now a part of the coaching staff until further notice. So it's Dave, if I'm saying that right, the last name right. I'll go with Dave C, if I'm not saying that right. He sent Bryce Young to the field against Tua Tagovailoa. Hope I'm saying Tua's last name right, if I'm not saying that right. I am working on it. But Mike McDaniel and the Panthers coach Dave C meet in week number 5 of this season. Now, will they meet again? Does not look like it here on the Panthers schedule as I'm looking at my phone here. It also does not look like it on the Miami Dolphins schedule as we are now just, I believe, 5 weeks away from the bye week with the Chargers coming up this Sunday, week 6 in the NFL season. Will that be a club dub edition of Dolphins Postgame? Find out the next Dolphin Postgame and tune into the game if you want to watch the game. Now, there is a lot to go through, but we are going to take a timeout. And when we come back, I will dive into the game of which the Dolphins and the Carolina Panthers played. But while we are on break, I want you to kind of keep in mind of what's in store for the last half of the show, as we will be looking at week 5 in its fullest in NFL, knowing that Monday Night Football just wrapped up, and we're recording this on Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. And one final thing, NHL fans who are joining me on the ice and behind the benches, but are football fans in general, we will have immediately following Bills post game and this post game show, right after they go off the air, we will have Penguins pre-show for you immediately following puck drop time at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific. We will have it for you right here on the ice and behind the benches, the puck drop between the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins as Penguins pre-show makes its return tonight. So that's something you can expect as soon as these shows go off the air. But now, let's take a break and get ready to break down the game when we return to Dolphin Post Game on Sports for Beginners and on the ice and behind the benches. We'll be right back.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
All right, welcome everybody back into Dolphin Postgame. I am your host, Thomas McGregor, Dolphin Nation. Back to Sunday we go with the 1-3 Carolina Panthers, 1-3 Miami Dolphins. Now, 1-3 Miami Dolphins became 1-3 after the Dolphins took a last week number 4 victory on Monday Night Football prime time when they beat the Jets 21. We had the locker room speech, of course, on Dolphins Postgame, which is available now, of course, on their YouTube channel. And of course, the show itself is available on Sports for Beginners. You could hear my club dub edition of Jets versus Dolphins. It is getting to go on Sports for Beginners. We'll have it for you, as well as we'll have this one as well. And as I mentioned off the top of the break, Penguins pre-show coming your way right after these shows as they get ready for the opening season opener in the Big Apple between the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Rangers. Penguins pre-show is a on the ice and behind the benches Sports for Beginners combined show that will cover select Penguin hockey games over the course of this 82-game season. Back to the football note. One final thing before we get back to football. As you may know, baseball playoffs are in play, and the Blue Jays continue their series with the Yankees, up 2-0, 2-0, that is, in the ALDS. They'll begin their possible wrap-up or maybe continuation, depending on how tonight's game goes, between Shane Bieber and Carlos Rodon, which are the pitchers on the hill for both the Yankees and the Toronto Blue Jays. They'll begin that game at 8:08 Eastern in Yankee Stadium, which should be a fun clash. That will be a 7:08 Central start, a 6:08 Pacific Mountain Time start, and a 5:08 Pacific start. Already delayed, and in the warm-up is the matchup. We will see Lewis Gilbert take on Jack Flaherty if that game does make a way into the game. Both pitchers coming into the postseason and coming into their end of the season. Logan Gilbert is the pitcher for Seattle. He is wearing number 36. They're currently in a delay right now. And speaking of his number, with just 3.44 ERA, you have a 6-6 record coming out of the 2025 MLB regular season, up against 8-15 record in Jack Flaherty. So Jack Flaherty and Logan Gilbert on the hill for that game that's currently delayed. That game, of course, scheduled to go right now in the ALDS as well. That series is tied at 1 game apiece. It is a best of 5. Who will come out on top and face the winner of the Yankees and Blue Jays? We'll know in game's time. All right, now that we talked about that, let's get back to Dolphins and Panthers, as we kind of got sidetracked there. Let's get back to it. We've already mentioned the coaches. It's Dave C versus Mike McDaniel. Of course, I'm using Dave and his first name's last name letter, which of course is C, the letter C, if I can't say the last name right. Tua and Bryce Young are the quarterbacks, but let's see if it started with quarterback action, shall we? Of course, this is all coming courtesy of the CBS Sports app on one of my phones here, my Samsung basically here. It begins with Riley Patterson kicking things off in Dolphins fashion with a 3-0 field goal lead for the Miami Dolphins from 43 yards. 43 yards out. The kick is up and it's good. Dolphins up 3-0 through 1 quarter of play. Second quarter, first half quarter of play. Tua Tagovailoa, or Tua for short, makes a pass short right to Devon Achane for 10-yard touchdown. Riley Patterson with the kick up and good. And what is now 9-0 Dolphins has now become 10-0 Dolphins. Panthers down by 10. Still in the same quarter. Dolphins on the ball with 10 in the first half. A pass short middle this time. This one is Darren Waller. This one's for 4 yards. He gets it in for a touchdown. Riley Patterson kicks it up after a 4-yard touchdown run by Darren Waller. The kick is up and good. And the Dolphins are on to an early 17-0 lead on the Panthers. But wait, fans of the Panthers, it's 17-0 now. Bryce Young, pass, short right. This one to X Leggetti, if I'm saying that right. I'll go with XL. I know that feels like I'm saying the short form for extra large, but no. XL as in the first and last name for this guy's name until I figure out who it is. This is a 7-yard pass. It is a pat by Fitzgerald. R. Fitzgerald is the Panthers kicker. Is that Ryan Fitzgerald? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see as we're looking here. Is that Ryan Fitzgerald? Yes, it is. It's Ryan Fitzgerald. Ryan Fitzgerald gets the team on the board after a 7-yard touchdown pass from Bryce Young. And all of a sudden, the Panthers find themselves down from 17-0 to now, with an extra point up and good, it is now a 10-point game. So they are down by 10 points yet again. Now remember, the Dolphins had a 10-0 lead and brought it to 17 before this touchdown pass from Bryce Young to XL for 7 yards. And then Ryan Fitzgerald kicked the point up and good, the extra point. It went through, and now it's back to a 10-point game. Speaking of 10 points, in the first half, Ryan Fitzgerald, it is now 17 Dolphins, 10 Carolina Panthers, leaving us with the Panthers down by a touchdown. It is 7-point lead for the Miami Dolphins. And it starts with Ryan Fitzgerald leading the charge, just like it did with Riley Patterson for the Dolphins early in the game. This one's from 49 yards out. Kicks it up and good. And the Panthers have cut the lead now from 7 to really, really small digits. It's now 17-13 after 1/4 of the second half has been played, the third quarter to be exact. IN reported as ineligible comes in with just 6:10 to go in the fourth quarter, also known as the final quarter of the second half. And it looks like a 1-yard touchdown as a run from R. Dualdo. The replay official reveal was the runner broke the plane ruling and the play was upheld. So the ruling on the field stands, and Ryan Fitzgerald would get an extra point attempt. And all of a sudden, a 4-point lead for the Dolphins has now become the Dolphins down in front by 3, as the Panthers, not only did they score a 1-yard touchdown to take the lead at 19-17, but with the extra point up and good, they now find themselves down by 3 points as the Panthers grab their first lead of the ball game. Tua and Jalen Waddle, the Penguin, waddle into the end zone for a 46-yard touchdown. Riley Patterson makes it a 4-point game yet again in favor of the Dolphins. It is 24-20. The Dolphins lead by 4 points again, as it is 24-20 in favor of the Dolphins. Bryce Young, this one short to Mike Evans. I know that's Mike Evans. I'm sure it's Mike Evans. For a 4-yard touchdown. Ryan Fitzgerald, the kick is up and good with just 1:59 to go in the fourth and final quarter of the second half. The kick is up. It is good. Just like that, the Dolphins go from having a 17-point lead to going to 4-point lead with a back and forth of 3 points down, with the Panthers scoring 19 and then 20, leaving to just down by 3 points for the Dolphins. The Panthers finished the Dolphins off in the last quarter of play with a kick up and good by Ryan Fitzgerald and Mike Evans for a 4-yard touchdown from Bryce Young to beat the Dolphins 24 and beat the Dolphins by 3. So it's a victory Monday, victory Sunday, or in our case, as we're recording this on a Tuesday, victory Tuesday for the Carolina Panthers to all of you. And that would mean, in Dolphin cases, if it was a victory, it will be time for victory ice cream. Well, maybe it's time for victory ice cream with the New York Giants. We'll take a look at how they fared in our Sunday recap in the look around for week 5 in just moments. Actually, let's do a little bit of that before we get into my favorite part of the show and most of our favorite parts of the show. And if you are a Dolphins fan and you don't want to hear the Carolina Panthers victory speech, because we will have it on here, and we will have it, of course, in the description if you want to check it out later, this is your time to mute the show when we get to the victory speech. but we still have a lot more to talk about. Let's start with Thursday Night Football. San Francisco is against the LA Rams. And despite absolutely every single thing you can think of, the 49ers improved to 4-1 on the season with a 26-23 overtime victory in OT over the LA Rams, who are now 3-2 to start their season into Jacksonville after they play the Baltimore Ravens this week. And speaking of this week's matchup between the Baltimore Ravens, let's take a look at how Baltimore did against their opponent for this week in the Houston Texans. And it looks like they had quite the challenge as the Houston Texans improved to 2-3 with a 44-10 victory over the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Now, granted, Lamar Jackson was ruled out, so Cooper Rush would get a quarterback ideal against CJ Stroud would be facing Cooper Rush. So, interesting. Let's talk about the undefeated teams. And one of them was playing early, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles, 4-0 heading into Sunday against the Denver Broncos, who were 2-2 heading into this game. They come out firing against the defending Super Bowl champions, but when all seems like Jalen Hurts has it in the bag, one bad play turned the game upside down as the Denver Broncos come out on top 2017, handing the Eagles their first loss of the 2025 season. We'll get to Buffalo in just a minute, but let's take back a look at how the rest of the games went down. There was a game that went down early, 9:30 in the morning in London, and I believe it was Cleveland. Yes, it was Cleveland Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. Cleveland improves to 1-4 with a loss of 21-17 as well, as they could not answer the Minnesota Vikings, who improved from 2-2 to now 3-2, with their next opponent on their mind being the defending Super Bowl champions, Philadelphia Eagles. They're on the bye week this week for week 6, so they're back in action on week 7 when they face the defending champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. 21-17, the final score there. So they lose to the Broncos. Will they lose to the Vikings? Who knows? Vikings win 21-17 over the Cleveland Browns in week 5. It is our Sunday NFL recap in the NFL. We'll take a look at some other games before we get back to our stats. And the other games I want to look at is the 26-14 victory over the New York Giants. The G-Man Giants fall to the New Orleans Saints 20-14. And how about this decision? The Cowboys, despite being tied 40-40 with the Packers last Sunday Night Football, they come out with a 37-22 victory over the New York Jets and push the Jets to 0-5 with a 37-22 victory, pushing them to 2-2 on the season with not just 2 wins, not just 2 losses, not just those, but also 1 tie. And that, of course, was last week against the Packers in Green Bay. When Dallas Cowboys heading into their next week, they were not on the bye week. They beat the New York Jets. I believe the Packers were on the bye week last week because they did play the Cowboys before they're back this week and they're against Cincinnati. The Cowboys bye week is upcoming, and in fact, it is actually only 4 weeks away. Once they face their next team, we'll tell you what the next team for the Cowboys is coming up later, but it's a hint that one of them was actually playing the Dolphins. So maybe that's their next opponent this week. All right, last one I'm going to look at is Buccaneers 38-35 victors over the Seattle Seahawks, who are 3-2 now to start their season into week 6. The Green Bay Packers, of course, were on the bye, so they're getting ready to face a 37-24 loser of the Cincinnati Bengals, who lose to the Detroit Lions. 4-1 is the record for the Detroit Lions. 2-3 is the record for the Cincinnati Bengals heading into the week against the Packers, I should say. Tampa Bay is 4-1 now on the season. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-2 with the 38-35 loss this week. And of course, next week, which is week 6, we'll talk about that, I'm sure. They will try to improve to 4-2 with the victory over their next opponent, which I believe will be coming in the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. Interesting. Tennessee Titans pull off their first victory against the Arizona Cardinals. Almost called them the Carolina Cardinals, but they are the Arizona Cardinals. 22-21. A little bit of a close game there, but the Tennessee Titans do pick out their first victory. If you're listening to Locked On Titans, Tyler Rowland, he's also known as the Madman on some of the Locked On NFL morning shows. Tyler Rowland, big victory month for you today. Hope you enjoyed the victory for the Tennessee Titans. If you didn't, I hope you enjoyed watching the game. It was a pretty good game, despite being really close. And the last game we'll look at is the Los Angeles Chargers lose 27-10 over the Washington Commanders, as both teams are now 3-2 to start their next game. We'll talk about the Monday Night Football match between the Chiefs and the Jaguars next time, but we do have to get to our game stats for the Dolphins and the Panthers, as the Dolphins lose their 4th straight game in the NFL. Jets during the Dolphins season and review, which will happen when the offseason begins. But for now, we will take another timeout word and hear a quick word on sports for beginners. And when we come back, we will hear from the Panthers locker room their victory speech on a 24-27 victory over the Miami Dolphins. We'll get to the game stats and wrap up the Sunday slate of what happened in NFL this week. You'll get my thoughts on the game in full throttle, what happens right after Dolphins Post Game, as we get you ready for Penguins pre-show between the Rangers and the Penguins. Hockey season's back after these words from Sienna T Radio on Sports for Beginners and Sports for Beginners on the A's and Behind the Benches. We'll be back with the game totals.
Sienna T Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on Sienna T Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on Sienna T Radio.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
We made it a little harder than it needed to be, okay? But that's all, we don't care, we just get it done. Okay, now, we got some guys on here, okay? 17 or 26, 164 rating, 2 TD. We got a couple sacks. Easton got a sack. DB got a sack. Jones finished with a blitz. And now we had some rookies help us today. Jimmy Horn, 2 for 21, a clutch. Chuggins found the end zone again. T-Mac, 6 for 73. Trevor Etienne had 4 rushes for 22. 17-point deficit. 17-point deficit, tied for the largest comeback in team history. Team, that's you guys right there on the finish. Okay. Now I saved the best. I saved the best for last. 93 carries. 23 carries for 206. Okay, we know what our processes are like, right? We know we got stuff to clean up. Let's keep working on that so we can play our football all the way to the end. DB, what you got?
I got one more. Got a game ball for the game clock.
Guys, keep building. Take the lessons to heart. Let's keep moving our football forward. This is a beautiful win, guys. A beautiful win. And it all happened right here, staying together regardless of what happened. I love you guys. I'm proud of this group right here.
Let's go, Ring.
Hey, great win, y'all. Way to keep fighting, man. Started off slow, but we grinded out. That's what we've been doing. That's what back to work next week, man. So coming up. Family on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Family, that's all you really got to hear from the Carolina Panthers victory speech. Welcome back in the Dolphins post game. The Dolphins, of course, losers to the Panthers in week number 5. Of course, it says that it was week number 4. It's victory speech, but of course, this is number 5 as we begin to play week 6 of the NFL season. I am your host, Thomas McGregor. Quick reminder for hockey fans, coming up after this show finishes, we will have Penguins pre-show, getting you set for 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific edition of Penguins versus the New York Rangers. And if you're a baseball fan, really quick before I get into the stats, because I want to get into the stats, and we already got through the victory speech that you just heard as we came back. I want to get this out of the way. It is delayed right now, but the Tigers and the Mariners with Logan Gilbert and their pitcher that they have for the Tigers, I forget who the pitcher's name is, but I'm going to look back at it again. Oh, it is Jack Flaherty. He is on the mound for the Tigers. Logan Gilbert on the mound as well for the Mariners. The game itself is delayed. That game is on FS1 for the TV networks. And of course, ESPN Radio has you covered both nationally, and I believe you can also see the game on Sportsnet ahead of Blue Jays Yankees game 3, where the Yankees are down 2-0, hoping to stay alive and force it back to Toronto. Will that happen? All in good time will tell us what happens there. Of course, we've got some BGFR fan reactions for our Blue Jays fan reaction pod coming up, so be sure to check those out. And Penguin fans, can't believe I'm saying this. If you are a Dolphin fan, but you love the Penguins as well, it is time to finally say, even though it's in the Big Apple, it's a hockey night in Pittsburgh Penguin hockey. As the great Mike Lang would say, it is a hockey night tonight. It may not be in Pittsburgh, but it's in Pittsburgh Penguin hockey. Rangers Penguins, 8 o'clock start on the east side of things. All right, back to the football. Dolphins lose 27-24 to the Carolina Panthers. We know that. Bryce Young with the win. And I was just reminded when I said Mike Evans, that Mike Evans is not with the Panthers. That was actually Mitch Evans, if I was trying to say the person's name right. Mitch Evans, who got some of the great words out of the Carolina Panthers win. And they had some rookies. So Mitchell Evans was the guy that got some of those passes. I apologize for that. Let's go to our stats. As always, they're brought to you by the CBS Sports app, which I have here as we're not sharing screens here. So we do have it here for you. And that, of course, contains a lot to look at, with both teams having about the same good time of possession. 28-46, the time of possession for the Miami Dolphins, 28 minutes, 46 seconds. The Panthers, 31 minutes, 14 seconds time of possession. Dolphins had 15 downs, with 13 of them being passes, 2 of them being on the ground. 6 of them were automatic first downs for the Carolina Panthers, which totaled 26 first downs, with 12 of them being passing and 8 of them being on the ground. In total, both teams converted 5 times on third down efficiency. Dolphins were 5 for 13 on third down completions. The Panthers were 5 for 11 completions on third down efficiency. The Dolphins and the Panthers each converted on fourth down efficiency. Once for the Dolphins, the only time they had a chance on fourth down, they converted by going for it on fourth down. 1 for 1 for them. And 2 for 2, 2 chances on fourth down, and Carolina actually converted both chances. They are 2 for 2, totaling a yards of 248 for the Dolphins to 418 for the Carolina Panthers. Only 65 plays called by the Panthers to 53 plays called by the Dolphins. And just a reminder, it was 248 yards for the Dolphins and 418 yards for the Panthers. Yards per play averaged just 4.7 yards a carry for the Dolphins, 6.4 yards per carry for the Carolina Panthers in play. While Carolina only had 198 yards passing, it did make 19 out of 30 catches from Bryce Young, averaging just 4.4 yards per pass. So 5.4 yards per pass, I should say, with Bryce Young getting his share of sacks, 3 sacks, lost 19 yards. Tua, he was also sacked 3 times for a loss of 27 yards. He made 27 completed passes out of 36 with, the usual sackage. He got sacked 3 times and lost 27 yards. The ground game was kind of atrocious for the Dolphins. 19 rushing yards, 14 rushes, averaged just 1 point yard per rush. Was 2 for 3 in the red zone and did convert 2 for 2 on goal to go efficiency, as well as the Carolina Panthers converted 2 for 2 on goal to go efficiency. However, just like the red zone for them, they only converted 3 for 5 chances in the red zone with 7.5 yards per rush. On 32 rushes, they rushed for 239 yards to be the final total. Think of it this way, Dolphins fans, as we get into the later stages of Dolphins Postgame. Think of it this way. So you have 19 rushes for not 19 rushes. You have 19 yards in rushing yards, and you look at 239 rushing yards. That's pretty good for the Carolina Panthers. The Dolphins in this one, kind of a little bit of a sluggish game, but hey, they got their first victory, so we can't really say it was a bad game. Yes, they lost, but they only lost by 3. Because you do the numbers. They had 24. If they had a field goal, they could have tied the game, which means it would have been 27-27. We would have had to go to overtime. But no, you didn't have it there. All right. We will take a break. And when we come back from that break, it'll be our final break of the program. We will dive into the final points of the Sunday in NFL. We will dive in to the final pieces of the game stats, like interceptions thrown, who threw interceptions, who turned the ball over, did they lose a ball, did they get a fumble recovery, or anything like that. We will dive into those. One thing I'll leave you with before we take our final break is both teams had 3 touchdowns, 3 of them passing for the Dolphins and 2 of them passing for the Panthers, with 1 of them a ground game touchdown for the Carolina Panthers. All right, the rest of the stats, the game balls of the game, and the next opponents for the Panthers and the Dolphins, followed by our final thoughts on the show, all coming up when we continue. Stay with us on Dolphins Postgame. We'll be back after these words.
What a busy traffic on this Friday evening. I am almost stuck in this traffic for the last 40 minutes. And there is no way, I think, for me to get to the show. The CNT Radio Song Bank, which is going to start very shortly. It's one of my favorite shows. And my, what a way to wind down for the weekend. Perfect 2 hours of fun-filled music. And she has so many great features. Sound of Music, Undercover, Foreign Exchange. Name that tune. And the big wheel that she spins. For Who's That? Or Where Are We? We cannot forget about the international stage. I have never come across such a great show in my life. I think I will have to press hard on my accelerator and go as fast as I can to get home in time. Wow! Wow! Look! I made it! I am almost there! CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Good afternoon, Scott. I'm really enjoying the podcast as per usual, so please keep up the podcast. You've got a great thing going. Keep it going, please. My favorite traditions, I just like to follow sports, on Halloween. I don't typically have, I do like chocolate, but I'm not really big on the traditional Halloween side. Please feel free to play this on a future episode. We'll talk soon. Hello? How are you, my friend? Why? What's the matter? Why feeling bored and lonely? Look at me. I am always happy. The only reason I can tell you, it's because I listen to CNT Radio. All the best shows you can think of. The Melting Pot, the Cosmopolitan Culture Club, and the Song Bank. There are also many more new shows to come. Please make sure to visit her website at http://cnt.wordpress.com/cnt-radio. Oh, now I can hear you more cheerful. CNT Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time.
All right, welcome back in the Dolphin Post Game, everybody. Always great to hear from our friends over at Sienna T Radio on Sports for Beginners. And of course, always great to hear from Sports for Beginners on our program on the ice and behind the benches. Of course, we are going to get you ready for week number 6 in the NFL with our wrap up of the week that was in week number 5. Of course, Monday Night Football featuring the Chiefs and the Jaguars. We will take you to that game in just minutes from now with, of course, the Buffalo Bills and, of course, their matchup against the Patriots, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Indianapolis Colts. Be sure to hear all the reaction from 23-20 loss Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots Sunday Night Football's action. After you tune into those shows, if you are hockey fans, let us know what you guys think about what we're doing this season for Penguin pre-show. That will be getting ready to go as soon as we get out of here on Dolphins Post Game. Now, just a friendly reminder, folks, that if you are tuning in to Penguin pre-show after this game, we are getting you ready for Penguins and Rangers scheduled to drop the puck at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're getting ready to get you ready for the Big Apple matchup as hockey season is officially back and underway. Now, if you are a baseball fan, the playoffs are underway and currently delayed. We have the Tigers and the Mariners, Logan Gilbert on the hill against Jack Flaherty. That game is currently delayed. And later tonight, we'll have Shane Bieber on the mound for the Blue Jays as they try to close out the series against the Yankees. Carlos Rodon on the hill for the Yankees as the Yankees try to push it back to Toronto. First, they need to play Wednesday. And the only way to do that is to get a victory tonight. So the only way to play to Wednesday is to get a victory tonight against the Blue Jays. Will they do it? Time will tell. First pitch, 8:08 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:08 p.m. Central Time, 6:08 p.m. Mountain, 5:08 p.m. Pacific is when that game gets going, and they are the only other action on for the MLB tonight. Back to the football we go. As we mentioned when we took the break, our final break of the program, you'll hear my thoughts on the series of the season so far, and of course, that will be coming up immediately following our game balls of the game. But back to our final game stats. When we last left you, we talked about touchdowns, and I did tell you that we would get to the penalties and the turnovers. That's where we're going to kick things off with our game stats wrap up, and that is within the context of the Dolphins receiving 9 penalties out of the 64 penalties the referees could have given the Dolphins. 8 out of 46 penalties that could have been given to the Carolina Panthers were given to the Panthers. 6 of the 8 penalties the Panthers had were automatic first downs to help the first down marker, which of course was 26 first downs for the Panthers. Now, of course, those could have been penalties to the Dolphins, resulting in automatic first downs, as the NFL rulebook will play out. The Dolphins did not fumble. They did not lose or recover the ball. However, the Panthers got a fumble forced by the Dolphins, were able to recover it, but were also, when they got a fumble by the Dolphins, they were able to lose a fumble. So they are 1-1 in fumble lost and fumbles recovered. They threw 1 interception with Bryce Young. Bryce Young threw 1 interception, and that, of course, in interception yards was returned for just 7 yards. In 5 kickoffs, the Dolphins had 122 yards just out of the 5 kickoffs. 5 kickoffs for the Carolina Panthers as well, resulting in 113 yards for them. The only team that really punted in this game was the Dolphins, and they punted 3 times for 29 yards. In return yards, 113 yards was the return yard for your Carolina Panthers, and your Miami Dolphins return yards was 158 yards return. And once again, 3 touchdowns in the air for the Dolphins, 2 touchdowns in the air for the Panthers, and 1 on the ground for the Panthers as they come out on top 27-24. They improved to 2-3. The Dolphins are 1-4. We will get to the game balls in just moments, but before we do, as we're coming up on our Sunday recap Week 5 NFL finish, we are going to look ahead to what the next opponents are. And we talked about Dallas early in this game. We talked about Dallas, and they will host a matchup against the Dallas Cowboys as Dallas Cowboys meet the Panthers in Carolina for what will be an amazing clash. They also were in home territory when they faced the Dolphins, so they'll continue to be at home before going on the road next week against the Jets. Week 7, they'll play the New York Jets at 1 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock a.m. Mountain, and of course, 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific. And that's the same for the Dallas Cowboys, which is this week, week 6. Will there be victories? Will there not be victories between those two teams? Who knows? And I would say who cares, but I'm sure Panther fans and I'm sure Cowboy fans, even the Panthers' next opponent, the New York Jet fans, would care if they got victories over the Panthers, or if you're Panther fans, you got victories over both the Cowboys and the Jets. Miami, however, is just a couple of weeks away from their bye, and their next opponent, and the next topic of conversation for us on Dolphin Postgame, is the Los Angeles Chargers. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern start, 12 o'clock Central start, 11 o'clock a.m. start on the Mountain, and of course 10 o'clock a.m. start on the Pacific, as they'll take on the Chargers and return to Hard Rock Stadium for that game. It's 1 o'clock start on the Eastern. It is scheduled to be Justin Herbert and Tua. Tua and Justin Herbert are the quarterbacks that could be playing. Now, Tua may play. Will Justin Herbert be playing with the Chargers? We don't know. We do know that there are some injuries concerning the Chargers, but perhaps we'll talk about that next time on Dolphin Postgame, when we're talking about the Chargers and we're talking about the Dolphins. After the Dolphins, if you're someone like me who likes to think ahead and try to get ahead of the game, after they face the Chargers, we'll be recapping them against the Browns as they make the trip to Cleveland, Ohio to take on the dog pound Cleveland Browns and their quarterback, Joe Flacco. That will be a good one to look at. That is on the 18th of October at 1 o'clock Eastern. And that is the next match the Dolphins will play in week 7. And remember, the bye week is coming up as well. So right after they're done with the Browns, they'll face the Falcons. The Baltimore Ravens will come into play at Hard Rock Stadium, as well as the Buffalo Bills. And then it's not Highmark Stadium. Dolphins will be the host of the 9:30 in the morning, Sunday, November 16 game, 2025 in the NFL season, when we go to Santiago Stadium in Madrid. I can't really say the last name of the stadium right, but we will go to that stadium for 9:30 in the Sunday action between the Commanders and the Dolphins. It's the Washington Commanders and the Dolphins in week's time. That will be on week 11 with the bye week following on the 12th. The Buffalo Bills play as the last 1 o'clock game in the Dolphin season before the bye. That's also the final Buffalo Bill and Miami Dolphin game, as the first one was played in Buffalo, 31-21, the final score there. That was in week number 3. What will the score be this time around in Hard Rock Stadium? Tune in to week 10's Buffalo Bills Postgame and Dolphin Postgame to find out. But before we get there, it's Cleveland, it's Atlanta, and we're back in prime time Thursday for Thursday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. Should be fun to get to the end of that one. But first, Cleveland, Ohio comes after we take a trip back home to face the Chargers next week, which is week number 6. So the Dolphins lose it, folks, 27-24. And that's what you guys could catch down the road of the Dolphins and the Carolina Panthers games. Now, I believe we have some business to get to before we get to the game balls of the games. And due to time constraints, we will only feature 3 Carolina Panthers and 3 Miami Dolphins for game balls of the game. One of the Carolina Panthers I'll just mention right now for game balls of the game includes the guy you heard on the victory speech just before we were getting ready to get close to the closeout in the Carolina Panthers locker room, Mitchell Evans, who I called during the breakdown, Mike Evans. That's Mitchell Evans. I do believe he had a great experience in this game. I'll talk about him after we wrap up Sunday's schedule. So here we go with the wrap up. The Indianapolis Colts put up a 40-burger against the Las Vegas Raiders, beating them 40-6 to 1-4. So that was a big letdown by the Las Vegas Raiders. That was a big letdown. Ooh, damn, that was done. That game was done before it started, folks. Sunday Night Football, the Patriots end the NFL's reign of undefeated teams and stop the Bills from becoming the first team in their franchise's history to reach 5-0 wins, having not lost a single game since 19's NFL season with the Buffalo Bills, dating back to some of the greatest games played by the Buffalo Bills back in those years. Now, I wasn't around when that happened, but it is quite good to figure that out. That's the first time since 1991 when Buffalo was close to being 5-0 and tying the Dolphins for being 6-0 the following week, who still remained the undefeated NFL team to go 5-0 and then, of course, 6-0, I believe, in NFL's history as the best undefeated team. Now, I know a lot of you have some things to say about that, but I'll leave it to you to talk about it. Let's just say that there are no undefeated teams, and it was as a result of a 23-20 victory for the Patriots, who are now 3-2 heading into next week, week 6. And of course, the 4-1 Buffalo Bills are hoping to go 5-1 with a win Monday night against the Atlanta Falcons. Meanwhile, the Patriots are hoping to continue their run as they'll take on, well, the New Orleans Saints, who, as we mentioned, got a victory against the G-Man Giants 2014, and also weren't the only one that defeated the undefeated teams. Denver Broncos defeat the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, 21-17. The Patriots and the Broncos defeat the last of the undefeated teams. The Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles were each 4-0, and they were the last team left undefeated. Not the case this week, and not the case in week 5's football finale. The last game on that slate was the Chiefs and the Jaguars. 31-28 the final. Jaguars beat the Chiefs 31-28. Out of action until next week. We had the Steelers, Packers, Falcons, and the Bears. So those records remain where they are. The Bears are currently 2-2 as they prepare for battle this Monday night against the Washington Commanders, which is week 6 matchup. The Atlanta Falcons also on Monday night. They'll take care of the Buffalo Bills, coming off of a bye week in which their record indicates they are 2-2 as well. The Green Bay Packers, as we mentioned, had tied the Dallas Cowboys. They'll be back in action with Cincinnati next week, week 6 at 4:25 p.m. Eastern time in Lambeau Field after tying the Cowboys at 40-40 last Sunday Night Football, week number 4, which indicates their record is 2 wins, 1 loss, and 1 tie. Will they tie with the Bengals, or will the Bengals pick up another win and they will get a loss? We'll find out the answers in week 6. And the Steelers as well. We're on the bye week as well. They are 3-1. They'll be back in action against the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland, Ohio versus the Steel City Pittsburgh Steelers in Steel City Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The game starts at 1 o'clock. And it's on CBS. So don't you dare miss a moment of the action next week. On the bye week for next week being week 6, as we get to our game balls of the game and our final thoughts, it is just 2 teams. The Minnesota Vikings will remain at 3-2 going into their bye week. The Texans will remain at 2-3 going into their bye week. The next opponent for the Texans will be week 7 at 10 o'clock Eastern Monday night when they take on the Seattle Seahawks. The Vikings' next opponent, so the Vikings are on the bye week this week, and next week it's the Philadelphia Eagles, and then the G-Man Giants, who the Eagles played this week, will play them again the week after that, and what will look like a night game on week 6, Thursday Night Football, and then there'll be a Sunday afternoon game. Lots of football to be played, folks. Lots of football to be played. But a lot of us have our doubts. Now, Mitchell Evans and the Carolina Panthers cruised by the Dolphins 27-24, the final score. As mentioned, they come out with a plan and they execute well. 4 receptions, 1 target, 1 reception, 4 yards, I should say, average 4 yards a carry, 1 touchdown, 4 yards being his longest. Great job by him, Mitchell Evans. How about Rico Dallwell, or Rico D? I'll go with Rico D. How about him? 4 targets, 3 receptions, 28 yards, just averaged 9.3 yards a carry. Longest yardage he had was 13. He didn't get a touchdown, but you know who did get a touchdown? Xavier L. That's what I was calling XL as his name. He did get a touchdown in this game despite being targeted 3 times and receiving the ball 2 times for 31 yards. His longest yardage was 24 yards on just 2 receptions. And how about T. McMillan? Oh my. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 73 yards, 23 yards his longest yardage. What a great job by him and Bryce Young. I have come up with 4 game balls of the game. Bryce Young is also there. Yes, the sacks and the interception kind of deteriorated. But the positives you come out of this with are 198 yards, 19 for 30 completions, and while he may have only averaged just 6 yards a carry, he did it his way. All right, because we're down to our final thoughts on game balls of the game, I'm going to make it brief and give you just 2 Dolphin players and send you guys off to Penguins pre-show on the ice, behind the benches, and sports beginners as they get ready for the return of the hockey season. Penguins pre-show, of course, hosted by me. We'll have host of Penguins Postgame, have you after the game, and you'll be back with us for his keys to victory this season. But I'll explain the later stages of that show as we prepare to sign off. The 2 players of the game that stood out to me, Tua was one of them. 27 for 36, 256 yards, averaged just 7.1 yard a carry, 3 touchdown passes for him. Yes, he got sacked. That kind of deteriorates it, but you kind of gotta go with what you can. And I'll use something that I've heard from Michael K earlier today. You gotta take the positive before you take the negatives. You gotta find the positives in everything that comes out of this. One final thing. I love what Michael K says. You've got to figure out what the problem is and find a way to fix it. If that helps the Yankees this week and they do come back to force it into Friday, who knows? We could be in for quite the finish line of the ALDS. Who knows what will happen the next week on Dolphin Postgame? I know it'll be a great game, and I know we'll all be watching it. Chargers, Dolphins. Will there be a victory ice cream? Will there be a club dub edition here of Dolphin Postgame? Who knows? We will find out next time when they face the Chargers next week, week number 6. How about Mikael Washington for the second and final game ball of the game? This will be the only one I give for the Dolphins. 2 game balls of the game. Mikael Washington. Makale Washington, I should say. I'll go with M. Washington because I'm usually used to saying that. 5 targets, 4 receptions, no average yards a carry, but the longest yardage he got was 8. He didn't get a touchdown, but Darren Waller and, of course, Jalen Waddle, they did get the touchdowns, averaging just 18.3 yards a carry, 15.6 yards a carry, 110 yards, 9 targets, 6 receptions for Jalen Waddle, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 78 yards, 15.6 yards a carry for Devon Chain. Also had a touchdown, averaging just 5 yards a carry, 30 yards, 7 targets, 6 receptions, 10 yards, and a touchdown, of course. All right, folks, if you're into baseball, BJFR, Blue Jay Fan Reactions, has you covered there. If you're in to Penguins, New York Rangers hockey, Penguins pre-show is on the way next. But Dolphin fans, it didn't go in our favor this week for week number 5. Will it go in our way this week for week number 6? And will we be 2 and 4? I think we will, but you just never know. We'll have it for you here on the ice and behind the benches and Sports for Beginners. But for now, thank you so much for joining us in the program. If you are interested in the Tigers, who are taking on the Mariners, that game is still currently delayed in Comerica Park. I don't have any updates as to whether or not the game is back underway. We do have a NHL live score update. The Panthers are up 2-1 on the Chicago Blackhawks as the first game of the 3 games are underway. So if you're interested in hockey, stay with us for Penguin pre-show coming up right after our closing message for Dolphins Postgame. And if you are a Dolphin fan and you are a football fan in general, I'll see you back here next week when the Dolphins take on the Chargers and we talk about how that game went down. And just in general, football fans, enjoy the football action that we have for you Thursday night against the Giants and the Eagles. Denver's taking on the Jets early in the morning on Sunday afternoon. I should say Sunday morning. And then Sunday Night Football proves to be a great match as the Chiefs and the Lions, before the Buffalo Bills and the Chicago Bears share Monday Night Football against the Atlanta Falcons and the Washington Commanders. Reminder of the bye weeks to look forward to. Houston Texans and the Minnesota Vikings are on the bye week, so they will be back in action on the 7th week of the season. All right, that's about it for me, everybody. We'll see you again when the Chargers and the Dolphins game goes final. If you're interested in baseball, BJFR, Blue Jays Fan Reaction, have you covered for the postseason in place of Blue Jays game recap. Until next season, we've got a hockey game to get you prepared for on the ice and behind the benches and Sports for Beginners. But until the next time we see each other, Dolphin fans, fins up. And hockey fans who are Dolphin fans, stay with us because we'll be back with Penguins pre-show starting now between the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Fins up until then, Dolphins Nation. We'll see you after Chargers and Dolphins next week on Dolphin Postgame.
Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.